which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting provided as is required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, with respect to the Home News Tribune, to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of this meeting. For those attending today, this meeting is recorded via audio. Roll call.
Chairman Engel.
Here.
Commissioner Kern.
Present.
Commissioner Katz.
Here.
Commissioner Moskowitz.
Present.
Commissioner Jallo.
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Here.
No old business, new business. Rewarding.
So commissioners, hello everyone, hope you have a good Thanksgiving. But to kind of bring you up to speed, so I think at least 3 of our commissioners have been through this process before, but for the benefit of our newest commissioners and myself, who hasn't gone through it before, every 10 years after the census, that census data is transmitted from the federal government to the state and then to the counties for board of elections to redraw ward and district lines for the upcoming election based on population of those wards and those districts. Again, we were anticipating doing the redistricting, in the new year prior to the primary, which has to be at least done 75 days prior to the primary. Rewarding is done based on statute, and it's done when the governor transmits the census data to the Secretary of State, and then that information usually flows down to the county. So the governor did that in September 5th, 16th. So by statute, the Board of Elections and Middlesex County would be forming ward commissions for the municipalities in Middlesex County that have wards where council people are elected through the ward system. So, for example, New Brunswick and Perth Amboy have wards, but theirs are at large, so that they wouldn't be impacted. So the towns that we'd be talking about would be Monroe, South Amboy, Piscataway, Woodbridge,
And
Oldbridge. And so, the charge, and then I'm going to give you the packet. So in terms, I'll go forward and then come back. So by statute, we would have to have a meeting 3 months, our first initial meeting 3 months after that data has been submitted to the Secretary of State, which would put us on for December 16th. And that would be our first meeting, and then by statute, we would have to then complete the work of the ward, rewarding the lines depending on the population 30 days thereafter. So again, I know there's a couple of commissioners in through it. So basically, and again in the packet is we would have to create ward commissions with each of the municipal clerks of the towns affected, with the commissioners, and then the clerk from that town serving as a member of that ward commission. And then depending on the variance between the largest and smallest ward, they might have to make corrections based on to be more in line in terms of making sure that the largest and the lowest wards in their town, the population doesn't vary more than 10%. And so, again, in your packet, all 5 towns would have to do some measure of rewarding. Woodbridge seems as if it would only have to move a few voters, but for the other municipalities, they would have to move, in some cases, a significant amount of people around in order to make the wards of equal size and measure. So again, we can talk about this a little bit further, but kind of going back, I would say that maybe a criticism is that the state did not provide the greatest communication in terms of when that data went to the Secretary of State's office. As a matter of fact, it was sent to the county planning in Middlesex County and wasn't received by us. We had a meeting with the state on, all counties had a meeting with the state on, was it Wednesday?
Yesterday.
Yeah, Wednesday, yesterday, regarding the deadlines and when this would have to move forward. So, you know, I know that probably in the past that this was done and probably a little more. And again, the census data itself was delayed because of COVID. So usually, I think from the last time when Jim Brokaw did this, you guys were meeting in August and early September and finalizing the ward plan, the ward lines at that time. So again, for our new commissioners, the deadline would be 30 days thereafter of our first meeting. I will say, you know, God bless Jim Brokaw. One of his final things before he left was he did make a contract with Remington Vernick based off the approval of the commissioners at that time to be able to have them on almost like a contract to be able to do the engineering work required for this. So the good thing about Remington Vernick, which Mr. Brokaw said, was that they are the state vendor for the SVRS in terms of the district lines and street files, and so they're intimately familiar with that. They do that work all over the state. They're actually the engineer for 4 of the towns that have wards. I think South Ambo is the only one that doesn't retain Remington Vernick as if not the engineer for the town, but at least one of the engineers. So I have a phone call with them tomorrow to kind of get the process started, at least from their end in terms of generating the numbers and beginning to get ready for the first initial meeting. So one of the things I want to be able to kind of review with you is at least the scheduling is maybe to ask the commissioners to put a hold on your calendars for December 15th, December 16th is the initial day to do the formation of the commissions.
I already have 2 conflicts on the 16th.
Do you need all commissioners, Tom?
I would probably need a majority of the commissioners to at least begin the process.
Can I add a couple things, because you're new as well in this. It's not that this is, you know, pearls of wisdom from on high, but there's at least some experience on it. One, we really can't finish this until the congressional districting is completed. The reason for that is the legislative districts they don't break up towns, but the congressional districts can break up individual districts. They don't break up individual houses, thank God, but because it gets to be nothing. So if you don't want if the congressional districts are similar to what they were 10 years ago, we had one town, Mulbridge, which was split. 10 years before that, we had part of Edison split, part of Woodbridge split, and part of, I'm not sure about Carteret, and part of Mulbridge split. Right, so until because we do not want a congressional district, we don't want an individual election district in 2 congressional districts. There is a little-known section of the statute that allows to do it, but it makes no sense whatsoever in terms of doing that. So we really can't complete the rewarding until we have congressional districts, because the rewarding, you have to have a district one way or another. So I'm not sure in terms of the timing on that. I know what you said, the 30 days, but I don't. Do you remember whether I thought we left more than 30 days to do this?
We had 2.
Well, I mean, you have rewarding, then you have redistricting.
Yeah, but the rewarding, but
the one affects
the one affects the other,
sure.
Because what you're going to try to do is move entire districts in one ward or another ward to keep the minimum, to minimally affect the voters. Because you don't want to, if you don't have to, you don't want to start them to moving into a different district to vote in a different location if we don't have to. Okay. And we don't know if we have to until the rest of that stuff's done.
And you could correct me if I'm wrong, is the map for the congressional, is that supposed to be finalized like January 15th? I think it's right around the same time.
I'm not sure. All I know is the press reports from both the congressional district and the legislative districts. And I know they've had, at least one of them had some meetings.
Yeah.
but we really, the legislative districts is not really an issue for our rewarding purposes, but the congressional district is. So maybe you should find out what they're, when that's going to happen, because then at that point we should really ask the AG, if necessary, to get a court order, so we don't have to start this until we know how we can split something, right? Because that's what we really need to know. And I'm going to ask this question, which I think I already know the answer to. 10 years ago, the AG and the Division of Elections held 2 classes for rewarding commissioners, most of which was attended by municipal clerks and things, but I was the only commissioner that attended one of them. I don't know if they attended the other, but it was useful because I found some information. They give some practical information, and I'll just mention the information now. When we do the rewarding, we should find out the street addresses of every one of the ward council people in each of the towns, because if possible, we should try to avoid moving council people out of their ward. And the reason I mention this is, you may remember it, 10 years ago, we proposed wards in South Amboy, moved one of the ward council people to a different ward, and we had to do a lot of moving around to make that not happen. But that's one of the things that they raised.
Those particulars are what we're going to get to when we get there. So I think the explanation that we're supposedly getting now gives us the purview of what we have to do completely by statute as opposed to the individual municipality, right? Because that's why I asked my question earlier.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we will look to make note of that.
So you should, 2 things, I guess. One, talk to the AG about perhaps getting a court order so we don't start until we know what we're doing. And the second, although I know the answer to it, I think I know the answer to it, is whether they're actually going to open the class. They're not opening the class. Okay. If I can think of it, if I have any paperwork from 10 years ago that might be meaningful, I'll try to see if I can find it.
Well, there's quite a bit online, as I was just saying, because I run some things off at home. And it is stark, but very singularly focused. I mean, it doesn't leave too much room for too much interpretation. So I think that we can be guided appropriately to make good decisions.
Yeah, but we can't make decisions until we know where we have to be.
Right.
So, by the way, there's one other thing. Apparently, we get paid as ward commissioners by the municipalities. This happened at least the last 2 times around. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's in the
It's in the statute, and then I know that some of them were experienced clerks are already set aside.
Okay, I'm just.
Yeah.
Probably for budget purposes, some of the towns already put money aside,
Yeah.
but it's, and also the clerk gets paid, and also any
Right.
administrative.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to raise things that I think might not be fully known from 10 years ago. That's all.
So are you objecting to that, or are you just making it?
I'm just making a comment because, we tend to have, I think the last time we had at least 3 meetings for each of the board commissions. So we're talking 5 towns. That's like.
I mean, again, I'm going back on what Jim
You know,
Russell
if,
did.
with
It's like
everything we've gone through with COVID, maybe you could check to make sure with the Attorney General, maybe we can even do this by Zoom.
That's possible.
Okay, because I think this is something that it could be, if it could be accessed and if it's okay to do it that way.
As long as we can have good copies of proposed maps and things.
Well, I think right,
Yeah.
but I think it's something that we could, I'm just trying to make it,
Yeah.
we could even, because we had problems last time about, you're not gonna do 5 towns in one day, you're not
Yeah.
gonna, that's just not gonna happen.
And the last time we did this, the last ward commission meeting for each municipality was actually in the municipality because it was a public hearing.
Yes. I mean, again, from the notes from 10
I'm-
years ago.
I'm
it
just
looked
trying
like-
to regurgitate
Yeah.
whatever I can recall that might be
It
important.
looked like you guys did an initial meeting where you guys formed the commission, and then you met a second time at the town hall of each of the towns and kind of went over the maps and kind of made the decision then, so. But again, I can, to your point, I'll get started on both ends. One, as if we're going to get started by the 15th, and then the other one, having that discussion with the AG, so.
By the way, just so for, in case anyone is interested, the provision of the statute, if you have two congressional districts in one, splitting an individual election district, in the election district you have separate machines for each congressional district, and people get sent to different machines depending upon congressional district you're in.
I wasn't allowed to do that anyway, so it didn't really matter. I wasn't allowed to do the splitting.
Well, we didn't do that.
I wasn't
Doesn't make
allowed.
sense.
You can make sure I wasn't allowed, so.
No, it's in the statute, but it's not an acceptable solution, which is why we said we're not doing it, but it.
It's not acceptable? But that,
Would you like to be?
we'll discuss
would you like
afterward,
to be-
let's move forward, sorry.
In my opinion, it's unworkable.
Well, if it's a statute, that's what it takes.
Okay.
Move forward.
Administrative report, Stephen.
But wait a minute, did we finalize the dates or not?
Well, I'll take two tracks. I mean, I'll reach out to you two regarding the 15th, 16th as an initial date. And again, per Commissioner Frankel's instruction, really is the suggestion, maybe making that first meeting, because it is more of a, if you want to say, of administrative kind of meeting, that it would be more of like a Teams or a Zoom meeting, so that we can at least get the process started, instead of trying to have everything.
So it could be a closed meeting, is what you're saying?
What's that?
Closed meeting?
No, I mean, we could still,
Even up to
we could
the,
still make
open
it
to
open
the
to the
public
public.
line?
of course.
Okay, just
But-
asking,
But you should talk to the AG first,
But again-
because there's no reason to have a meeting on December 15th
Yeah.
and say we have to finish in 30 days when we really may not even be at the logically start for 30 days.
But I'll do both because the, time of.
Yeah, no, that's
as
fine.
It is, that I don't want to lose days if unnecessarily.
The energy dates. Second, they have, no, the energy dates, the entire month that they have evening functions for the 15th and 16th.
We finished?
Might be the 14th, we could even do
Yeah,
the 14th.
well, I know, I'm not,
I mean,
well,
it's
no,
just,
we gotta find,
can
we
figure it
gotta,
out.
we have to figure out.
Let him figure out what he
yeah,
needs to do.
Yeah,
We'll talk about you.
that's fine.
We're moving on to administrative reports.
Okay. The warehouse conducted per court order an opening of voting machines for Old Bridge, Metuchen, New Brunswick, Piscataway, and Sayreville. It was concluded in the presence of Chairman Engel and Secretary of Registration Frankel. It was all in person and just bipartisan staff, so we all basically walked around and set everything up, and then you guys were there to witness for the most part. And that was basically as far as anything that's happened in the warehouse since the election. All the machines came back. They are all pretty much ready, good and ready to go for the most part. I know we have, it's not in the report, but we do have 184 voting machines we have to do acceptance testing on. So we're going to start that in the new year. I'm currently waiting for ES&S to send us audio kits. We lent them out. We basically gave them away in order to get some back later because we weren't using them and they needed it for Monmouth County for the elections. The technicians are going to resume charging for the 720 that we currently have. We have already put a charge on the 184 and installed the batteries at least, so that this way when we do acceptance testing on the new 184 that they'll be ready to go. And then most of the technicians helped out the office as far as doing provisional ballots for the general election. And we're all back. That's it.
Linda?
Hi. So we have a little over 10,000 records to process, but right now the staff is concentrating on making the changes from provisionals and updating the provisional vote history. Election history from the voting machines was already done, and mail-in ballot history. We have Walter from our office who's programming the 2 e-books for Cranberry. They're going to have 2 electronic poll books for the election. He will be on site in the morning, stay as long as they need him, and then go back in the evening to close everything out. I believe we're using the Nighthawk instead of the Cradle Point instead of the Nighthawk for this election.
You're talking about
For
the
the white.
two special elections?
For Cranberry,
The
for
Cranberry.
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 Yeah.
For the South Brunswick Fire, we're not using electronic poll books. We've already printed up the paper poll books for them. But I'm hoping that in February, for the regular fire election, we can point them toward the e-books instead of printed, because it takes a lot of work to print them, to bind them, to generate them.
Why did you choose not to use
It's just one fire election. It's just South Brunswick Fire District 2. I think there's like 1,300
But
voters.
I guess the issue is, does SVRS have a line in there for what fire district the voter is in?
Yes.
They do?
The only thing we don't do, we've never done, is update vote history. In the past, when we provided printed poll books, they would keep the poll book. They never came back, we never updated that they voted. So if that's something that we want to do in the future, we can do that. That's it. We still have a lot of cleanup work. We're running out of space too.
Well, I have should I have questions on this section?
No, I'm
Finish. Commissioner Moskowitz?
Go for it, no, you.
No. My question is it your department that's going to be responsible for checking how any names that you might have been alerted to that had a problem with the input into the general?
The e-books?
Yes.
Yes, we have from,
gonna be you.
Mr. Lynch has gotten some emails, we've gotten some phone calls, we're opening those electronic poll books, checking out what the problems were, and yes, we're researching it.
I'm sorry to add more to your department, but
You have, okay, can you email me?
of
Us?
course.
Okay.
I have
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, actually, it's one question and maybe 2 questions. First one is, I know the MVB can register when you go into a motor vehicle commission. The motor vehicle online, there's limited items. Do we still register people from
Yes.
from that?
They have to have been registered somewhere within the state of New Jersey to register online through that portal. But then we have the portal from the State Division of Elections, which they don't have to be registered, it's different.
But the NBC that has the same question, are you a citizen?
Yes. The only thing you can't do is declare your party online through motor vehicle.
Okay. The other question or comment I have is in the South Brunswick borough election, we should talk about providing voting machines. I'm not unhappy about that at all, but my understanding, and I don't know why it was, but we specifically never provided voting machines to fire districts, even if they asked for them. I don't know why we didn't do it. but
It's
I think-
because, so in 2006, the technology on the voting machines changed because we added audio kits they took away from panel programming. Before that, we used to do it to all fire districts, whoever requested. But afterwards, they took that out of our hands, which means the county clerk's office was going to have to program fire elections
Okay.
into the machines, and then we would get it. We were unable to do it ourselves. They said no, so therefore we had no option to hand them out.
Okay.
Now with these new machines, and Deborah likes doing it anyways, and there's a rumor that South Brunswick wants them for this election. And I say rumor because until they give me anything in writing that's stating that they're requesting, they're not getting voting machines from me. So,
Wow.
Okay.
but from what I know, that's what's going to happen continually. And I
So
think
we
it's
now
more
have-
districts,
We
fire
now have
districts here.
capacity to provide fire
Yes, and we do.
machines.
And because Deborah's doing,
And they
see what
pay-
happened is now with the new system, Deborah is forcing them to go through her, no outside vendors for all the ballots and stuff like that. So now that they're doing that, it's very easy to translate written, or like the language over to the voting machine. So it's very simple for us to do it now. So
And
we don't mind doing it.
whatever we do for fire districts, we get reimbursed for it. So if we provide machines, that would be the same thing.
Yes, I would give that to Marie as far as the
Yeah.
count.
So I guess if we're actually going to do this, we should probably let all the fire districts know that if they want to use our machines, they can.
Yeah, they have to put it in writing.
I
and
know,
they
I
have to talk to
understand
me
that,
to
but-
request how many they
But
need.
since it's been a policy for many years that they couldn't.
But they did do it in April.
Hmm?
They did do it in April.
Yeah, I thought we
There were 2 fire departments that did it in April.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I would love more, and I'm hoping that
Okay,
they.
well, I know East, I'm in a fire district, East Brunswick is
They didn't request it, though. They didn't request it. We threw the offer out to everybody.
Okay.
They did not request
Yeah,
it.
they rented a machine from somebody.
Yes, but they did not request any
Okay.
from us.
Okay.
We will be more than happy to give it to them.
Well, we should let everybody know, because it also gives us, okay.
We did for the 19th.
Yeah.
So they already have 1 year down of knowing that if they would like voting machines, we are offering it to them again.
Well, whenever we are in contact with them, if they're asking for, that we got to give them the poll books, we should just remind them if they want machines, they can do that. That'll give us another opportunity in a small election to test or check things. That's it.
Okay. Bob?
All right. Not on my report, but just an FYI, our office hasn't received anything today in terms of any recount filings through Middlesex County. Not to say that there won't be one, but today we have not received anything.
Did you check with the election judge?
I did yesterday, and as of yesterday, they said they had not received anything, so.
The time for a recount or recheck is actually passed, but who knows? With the crazy dates and timing, at least in other counties, there's at least one judge said they'll take it later, so.
Yeah. Just thought I'd let you know. And again, again, I want to thank Middlesex County College. It's been very supportive and helpful during these last couple elections. Continue to be, obviously, by the fact that we're going to be a presence here, and that our tabulators and letter opener and ballots are here, but they'll be returned to the board when county building and management is able to come over and take that stuff back over. Linda hit it on, and again, I just wanted to update you again, maybe for our new commissioners, is that we've had discussions with the county about expanding our footprint in the building where we are, simply because of the challenges we have with all the new equipment that we've had to kind of use now.
I use and store.
Use and store. So basically, if you come into our office and go into any room, there are poll books at the moment. So, but we've so we've had conversations, and again, the county's been very supportive and very open-minded in terms of reconfiguring the space in the adjacent building, which is 13 Kennedy, in terms of providing extra space for us, and, in some sort of configuration. So we're meetings towards the end of this month. Leases are up next door and in a couple other buildings on Kennedy. So hopeful for some ability to kind of store a lot of the stuff and maybe create some new space for training and storing of the election records that we have, and some other things that we might try to do if we had more space.
I was under the impression that we were going to get the rest of the space in the building.
It's still a work in progress. It seems like if I sort of script the department, the environmental health department there is going to be being consolidated with another building. The county school superintendent office is going to remain there, but it's only, I think it's like 2 offices. And I think, as we had talked before, having an office of the elections of the county clerk within that building, whether on a temporary or whether just during election seasons or on a permanent basis, just so we have that synergy between the 2 offices. So, but again, it's a pretty big space, and if we can get any part of that, it would be better than what we have now.
Do we have any idea roughly when we'll know?
Either by the end of this year, or they said by late January, early February.
There's not an issue with the landlord in any way, is there?
No, no.
No, I only mention this because I used to represent the landlord. I was not involved, I didn't know we were renting this place
The whole building's rented by Middlesex County,
Yeah.
so it doesn't make a difference.
No, I think the issue is simply leases ending and then providing those other departments new space and trying to get everything figured out, so.
You let us know where the meetings are going to be held, right, in January and December?
I would say for the time being, until we have that resolved, that the meetings would remain here.
Here?
For the time being.
Because our conference room is full of
Our
in
conference
public?
room is filled with a lot of stuff at the moment, and we can move it, then we're moving into Maria's office, and she might not like that. And then, let's just see if there's, and then just, you know, based off of our last meeting, we kind of had a brief discussion, was that, you know, for January, having the full-throated kind of like review of the election. Again, with the holiday, it was kind of hard to get people nailed down in terms of meetings and appointments to kind of review a lot of stuff. Although we've had a couple of initial meetings with the county clerk's office, with the SNS. We had an IT meeting with the maker, FirstNet, the maker of the Nighthawk, as well as AT&T, as well as the county. I forget the name. County, the Department of Homeland Security that provided the IT overlap in terms of the election network, as well as our own county IT participating in that, kind of reviewing some of the things. So we've been, again, making some initial meetings with the municipal clerks to kind of get their on-the-ground experiences in terms of you know, connectivity or bandwidth issues regarding the beginning of the day. And again, beyond that, but just having a holistic kind of report and a discussion for the January meeting.
And when you say "we," to whom are you referring? You said we've been meeting.
I
invited staff to participate as well as county IT.
So everybody goes with you?
These were teams meetings, so I invited you know, senior staff.
But are we going to, we had lots of problems, as we all know, with the election day. And I would like, this says the board. The board is the board going to meet with the county clerk and the SNS?
Yeah, I invited them
Okay,
for the
good.
next.
Okay,
for the next.
that's fine,
January.
thank you. No problem with preliminary stuff, but I want to talk about.
Well, we both were on the same
Yep.
line.
That's fine.
But again, nothing to cover today, so the invitation was extended for the next meeting.
That's it, Tom?
Yep.
Okay. Any commissioner comments?
I have.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. It's two sort of bookkeeping comments. One, each of the commissioners are members of international, it's IGO, International Association of Government Officials, and we just have to make sure that the dues, the annual dues are being processed, because I got a second notice which I forwarded.
So did I.
Okay, and so that make sure that stuff's processed. And secondly, and this is something you necessarily know about, all of the commissioners, at least the four commissioners, received, when they got appointed, hard copies of Title 19 and pocket parts. Mohammed knows what I'm talking about in terms of pocket parts. If you use any books, actually. Okay,
Nope,
well,
sold on my phone.
the pocket parts are supplements to the hardcover books, updating the statutes, etc. And we've received pocket parts, so we have updates on that. Because I looked in my book, and the last one we got was from 2019, which was good for 19 to 20. So I suggest that you get the books, the hardcover books for the new commissioners, if they want them, and the updated pocket parts for everybody, so we're all on the same page. This is not something new. This is something we've been doing for at least,
I get that.
Since the dawn of time.
So,
well, at least since I've been on it.
That's the whole time.
we did order.
Well, I was here before
We did
that,
order.
so.
You'll get them. Is basically what I'm saying.
Any commissioner comments? No more? Okay. Public.
Good evening, members of the board. Charles Cradaville, editor of New Brunswick Today, resident in New Brunswick. I'll note that the county clerk is absent. Pretty sure there's also no rep from ES&S here tonight. I'll look forward to hopefully them attending the next meeting. Sad to report no answers from the Board of Elections regarding the clerk's absence at the county canvassers meeting. Sent you the statute that says she is your clerk for the meeting, and haven't gotten a response from the administration. I think I copied all of you except one of the new members who I'll have to get your email address after the meeting. Sad to report no answers from ES&S about their widespread problems that they caused this year, both in the elections and the counting of ballots. Attorney General's office won't explain what advice they gave. They think that's supposed to be a secret, and so it's really hard to get to the bottom of what's going on. But I want to know the order to open the voting machines. What time of day were they opened?
They were opened, I don't know the exact, was it started at
9:30, I thought.
9:30?
9:30.
Okay, because I was in the courtroom at that time, and I thought the order said it should be done at noon, but
I think the order,
maybe
Charlie,
I'm wrong.
That was the filing.
Yeah, I had, initially in my mind, I had the same thing, so the order, but the order actually says by noon.
By
Not
noon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask when the board's going to conduct and release the promised post-mortem investigation on all the problems with the election. It sounds like your next meeting is January
Right.
something. Do you have the date for me?
January 6th.
6th.
January
6th.
6th. And any more information that you can give at this time on the problems with the poll books?
No, I guess we're going to do an election review in
Okay.
January.
How about the programming errors? Were there any other programming errors identified besides the Piscataway ballot question?
Again, to-
We know.
No.
Well, we do have to find out why people weren't in the e-poll books in their districts in some instances, which there may be some non-programming reason, there may be programming reason. It's something that it's things to be explored yet, which we don't have answers to.
Okay, and in these meetings with the county clerk's office, the administrator had any insight on what led to the mega failure of not having paper provisional ballots at all the locations when they opened? Well,
We should find out
To be
next
covered
week.
at the January.
to be covered in January, okay. Of course, I've raised at the April 2021 Board of Ed election here in New Brunswick. An ES&S employee forgot to count an entire machine of votes, and I was told that had never happened before. But I want to share with you this, and can somebody tell me, did the same thing happen in the general election? I could take one and pass it down. These are emails I just obtained, and they seem to suggest that there was at least a couple of voting machines in South River last general election that were not counted in a timely way and were kind of tucked into the results later on. Did that happen? Is this, and who's responsible?
This was last year.
Yeah, general election last year. I think Mr. Katz raised the issue, and there's some responses there.
If I recall, this was not an ES&S issue. Remember, that's the very first, the November 2020 election was the very first time we used any of the machines at all, and it was limited to basically disabled people on their usage. So the poll clerks, almost no poll clerks knew anything about it, and of these machines. They may have had the minimal training, so some of the poll clerks, instead of turning the cartridges in where they were supposed to, put them in with the supplies, which were found later, which is why we had numbers that changed later. That was my question as to why they changed.
Sure.
That was why that was the issue. But that was not an ES&S issue. The ES&S could not total anything until they got it. And if you recall, we had very limited number of polling locations. So it was all different.
Done, Bob?
Yep.
Okay. Your time is up, but you have 3 more minutes.
I'll take the 3 more minutes, thank you. And yeah, just cause for concern that it took so long to catch that error, just like in April of this year. If you don't have the right checks in place, human error can cause votes to not be counted timely, and it happened now twice. Maybe one time it was an ES&S
I would say
employee.
that's an assumption. I mean, we would have to go back and actually, this
Sure.
was last year, that whether or not the results were inputted manually or whether they were done election night, but we didn't get the sticks back as we normally would later that night, so.
No, we didn't get the sticks back, and the
Again,
numbers
no,
were
I said we
included.
didn't get the sticks back, whether they were read on election night is what I'm saying.
Maybe they were read on election
Yeah,
night.
I would think that, I mean, clearly that we didn't get them back in the timely fashion that we usually do on
The
election.
reason my question at that point was that the numbers as reported changed after election night later, and I asked why, and that's how we got to that.
Okay. I just have to move on because of the limited time. Cranberry election is what date? And it's a referendum?
There's a special
December
school
14th.
question on December 6th,
You have
December
it,
14th.
December 14th.
which is
Okay.
Tuesday.
14.
Any others scheduled before February? And are there February fire district elections?
There's the fire district election that Linda just spoke of on the Thursday, the 16th, December 16th is the.
Okay, 2 elections in 1 week. That's
Yep.
maybe another first. And then, yeah, I just want to push back a little bit. I know Commissioner Katz mentioned basically having an incumbent protection component to the rewarding process, and I think that's totally wrong. There's already enough mechanisms that are keeping incumbents in power, and if I don't think it would be
After you
appropriate
finish your time, I'll respond.
to include. I think that's all I have to say, except wish everyone a happy holiday and see you in the new year.
It is legitimate, and it's a legitimate consideration on the list of redistricting and rewarding, is the location of the incumbents. That is a legitimate and acceptable thing to consider. And especially when you're dealing with wards, and you have people that are there, whether it's not necessarily protect them, but they've been representing whatever their jurisdiction is for at least the one term, maybe multiple terms. And if it's not necessary, there's no reason to take them away from their constituents, which they've been serving. And it's given to be legitimate consideration in doing the rewarding. And by the way, as a Republican, we saved the Democrat council person seat because it was appropriate.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
roll call?
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
With good holiday wishes, yes.
Commissioner Jello?
More trouble with you.
Commissioner Benjamin?